Good afternoon. My name is Justin Jackson, and I serve as Executive Director of the Community Development Administration. I welcome you to the public hearing for the 2022 Annual Action Plan Draft. With the Annual Action Plan, we estimate the amount of federal formula grant funding to be received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the upcoming year. The funding areas specifically are the Community Development Block Grant, Cdbg, Home Investment Partnerships, Home, Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, HOPWA. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive feedback regarding the 2022 Annual Action Plan Draft while allowing for the views of citizens, public agencies, and other interested parties to be heard. Our schedule this year has been full of change and presented some very unique circumstances. However, we've continued working and we are in the final stages of the 2022 Annual Action Plan process. We look to ensure that CDA continues its mission of promoting neighborhood growth and stabilization through community development. In accordance with HUD regulations, CDA makes available several documents for public review, including the Consolidated Plan, Annual Action Plans, and the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. Please note the final versions can be found on the CDA website, which is www.stlouis-mo.gov/CDA. We encourage you to periodically check the CDA website for news and updates. So today's agenda, we will go through the purpose of today's public hearing, the action plan development as it relates to this year's action plan, citizen participation overview, as well as a brief overview of entitlement programs. I will give a brief review of some Cdbg and home information, while also giving a brief overview of our past RFP process, as well as CDA recommendation. I will follow up with a brief overview of ESG and HOPWA information. And at the end of our presentation, I will allow for any comments from the public. So the purpose of this hearing is to give the public an opportunity to comment on our annual action plan, which is due to HUD in the month of November. It also serves as an avenue to provide an overview of recommendations for HUD formula grant funding for the upcoming 2022 program year. As mentioned earlier, the four formula grants are the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, which is administered by the Community Development Administration, Home Investment Partnership, or HOME, which is also administered by the Community Development Administration, the Emergency Solutions Grant, which is administered by the Department of Human Services, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, or HOPWA, which is administered by the Department of Health. As an entitlement community under HUD classification, the City of St. Louis receives annual funding from the federal government to fund activities that address community needs. Additionally, as a funding recipient, the City of St. Louis is required to submit to HUD an annual action plan that describes how the city will utilize federal funds that will produce the greatest measurable impact on our community. The city's lead agency responsible for the submission of this plan to HUD is the Community Development Administration, or CDA. Annually, we estimate the amount of funding from HUD Annually, we estimate the amount of federal funding to be received from HUD. It's always an estimation based on funding from the prior year. Total for this year's estimated allocation is approximately $26 million. The final award amount will be provided in 2022 upon congressional approval. So the 2022 Annual Action Plan embarks on the third year of the 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan. The Consolidated Plan process is a data-driven process that involves enhanced citizen participation, which identifies strategies, program priorities, and targets for the allocation and use of Cdbg, home, ESG, and HOPWA funds. On to citizen participation. CDA encourages citizen participation at all stages of the funding process. So this includes citizen involvement in identifying needs, setting priorities among those needs, deciding how much money should be allocated to each high priority need, suggesting the types of programs to meet high priority needs, and overseeing the way in which programs are carried out. Generally, this occurs during the development of the 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan and the respective Annual Action Plan. The 2022 Annual Action Plan draft was made available for review beginning on October 15, 2021, offices of the Community Development Administration at 1520 Market, Suite 2000, and on the City of St. Louis's website at www.stlouis-mo.gov/CDA. Advertisements indicating the availability of the draft report and the dates of the public comment period appeared in the St. Louis American on October 14, 2021. The notice was also emailed to interested parties, archived on CDA distribution lists. The 2022 Annual Action Plan draft can be found on the CDA's website, which is the link that is shown on this slide right here. This is a link that's accessible through the CDA website. And if there's ever any question about where documents are located, all of our documents are placed on CDA's website, but this is the specific link. Regarding entitlement programs from U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, as mentioned, there are 4 entitlement program areas, and Cdbg funds may only be used for activities that fulfill at least one of 3 national objectives. Those specifically have to benefit persons of low and moderate income. They have to account for the elimination of slums and blighted areas, or they have to provide a response to an urgent need, such as a natural disaster. Home funds may only be used to provide housing to benefit persons of low and moderate income. ESG funding provides homeless persons with basic shelter and essential supportive services, as well as short-term homeless prevention assistance for persons at risk of losing housing. HOPWA funding provides assistance for the housing needs of persons living with HIV and AIDS and their families. The 2022 estimated allocation amounts are as follows: $18,989,355, which the city estimates will be available for 2022 Cdbg funding. $3,034,355, which the city estimates will be available for the 2022 home program year. $1,571,591, which the city estimates will be available for the 2022 ESG program year, and $606,989, which the city estimates will be available for the 2022 HOPWA program. Some quick information, additional information on Cdbg and home. So all HUD-funded activities must fit within an outcome performance measurement framework to provide standardized measurements nationwide. The City of St. Louis followed a thorough and intensive process for developing the 2020 to 2024 Consolidated Plan, and the 2022 Action Plan builds upon those efforts. Funds for the 2022 program year are allocated among these objectives and outcomes originally indicated in the Consolidated Plan. Given the magnitude of the housing, economic development, and public services needs outlined in the 2020 to 2024 Consolidated Plan, it is critical that public subsidy resources be leveraged in order to have the greatest impact possible. Following areas aid in this: data-informed and housing market-aware decision-making. So in late 2019, the Reinvestment Fund, TRF, produced an updated residential market analysis for the City of St. Louis. The residential market analysis is a tool for the City of St. Louis that can be helpful to the public in ways to direct the investment of public funds so that private investment may be strategically leveraged for the public's benefit. Emphasis on leveraging in requests for proposals for subrecipients and subgrantees. CDA continues to place an emphasis on budget and leveraging in the NOFA and RFP processes for subrecipients and subgrantees for public service and other activities utilizing Cdbg and home funding. The current application and scoring sheet emphasizes the importance of leveraging, as well as a renewed focus on concrete, measurable outcomes in order to ensure the maximum impact per dollar spent. Additional match and leverage. For other funding sources such as ESG, there is a requirement of a 100% match. EHS, or the Department of Human Services, continues working on identifying eligible match funding from sources other than grantees to reduce the match burden on subrecipients. HOPWA. The coordination of HOPWA funding with Ryan White Part A funds enables the region to extend services to a greater number of consumers and to appropriately respond to the needs of people living with HIV and AIDS. For 2022, HOPWA will continue to focus on directing resources for short-term rent, mortgage and utility assistance, and additional funding for tenant-based rental assistance. Innovative public and private working groups. In order to better catalyze private investment, the City of St. Louis governmental departments are increasingly taking part in public and private discussions with local intermediaries, foundations, and developers, such as the St. Louis Housing Funders Group. Neighborhood revitalization strategy area boundaries are HUD-approved geographic target areas. These are locally designed and designated areas where target investments and revitalization efforts are carried out through multiple activities and programs in a concentrated and coordinated manner. 4 geographic target areas have been identified by existing market conditions, with a 5th NARSA pending HUD approval to build from strength and leverage of private investment throughout the City of St. Louis. The purpose of these priority areas is to encourage certain activities to be conducted within them. However, they do not prevent those activities from being conducted elsewhere in the city for good reason. The following are HUD-approved neighborhood revitalization strategy areas, or NARSAs. You can see that 4 of the 5 NARSAs are in the northern part of the city, with a north, northwest, north central, and choice NARSA locations. There's a 5th NARSA location. If you look close, you can see it's in the southeast portion of the city. That is a proposed NARSA location. It has not yet been approved by HUD, but it is still earmarked as an area of concentration for resources. A brief review of the RFP process and timeline. For Cdbg, the Cdbg request for proposal process was integral to ensuring citizen participation in the planning and development of the 2022 action plan. Efforts included the following in 2021. On July 7th, the 2022, but the 2022 funding timeline through the Community Development Administration website was published. Following up on July 16th with advertisements in the St. Louis American and on the CDA website were the proposal acceptance period and workshop training dates, as well as funding priorities. On July 23rd, a virtual public hearing such as the one that we are having today was conducted to solicit feedback on annual priorities and activities for Cdbg, OHM, ESG, and HOPWA. On July 27th, 2022 request for proposal applications published through the Community Development Administration website, indicating that a due date of August 27th would be allowed. In addition, to close out the month of July, for the final week of the specific dates of July 26th through July 29th, CDA conducted virtual Cdbg RFP workshops to assist and aid aspiring applicants with different portions of the RFP application, as well as to indicate best practices and answer any questions related to the RFP. Recently, on October 1st, CDA issued funding recommendations on CDA's website after having received all applications in and ranking those applications and making recommendations for funding for 2022. Community stakeholders were notified. On October 14th, we advertised the availability of the draft 2022 annual action plan for public comment and for today's public hearing in the St. Louis American. In addition, community stakeholders were notified about the availability of the 2022 annual action plan draft and the upcoming public meeting. On October 15th, the actual 2022 annual action plan draft was posted to the CDA website. And last but not least, today we are having a final public hearing to solicit comments on the draft of the annual action plan for 2022. Some of the recommendations for CDA for 2022, specifically from the RFP process, we received over $13 million, which was requested through the CDA RFP process for public services from nonprofits and city agencies. Of those proposals that were recommended for 2022 CDBG funding, highlights of proposals awarded include the following recommended programs. Approximately $3.59 million in public services, $1.79 million in LRA assistance, $439,000 for minor home repair, tuck pointing assistance, and down payment assistance / closing costs, $1.87 million for healthy home repair, $7.1 million for housing production for single family and rental housing structures, $750,000 in economic development activities, and $1.7 million in public improvements. So some of the examples of public services examples, operating agencies such as Food Outreach, Criminal Justice Ministry, and the Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club of St. Louis were awarded. Community Health and Partnership Services, or CHIPS, continue to be funded to provide low and moderate income individuals with healthcare services and health screening assistance. Employment Connection and Mission St. Louis continue to be funded to provide low to moderate income individuals job training. And by funding these programs, the city is able to provide direct services to low and moderate income persons to assist with vital community and social needs. As far as economic development is concerned, with the St. Louis Development Corporation, Cdbg funds will continue to be used to fund the administration and implementation of the facade improvement program. Capacity building for minority contracts will continue to provide necessary assistance to MWBE contractors. And Justine Peterson will provide Cdbg funds to assist small businesses through the provision of micro enterprise assistance. As far as public improvements and facilities, for public improvement, there was one award to IFF, who submitted a public improvement project requesting funding specifically for the Economic Empowerment Center. That is to be in conjunction with the Choice Neighborhood Program redevelopment. As far as planning is concerned, the 2022 activities supported include the Planning and Urban Design Agency, municipal agency, and overall, approximately 19% of new Cdbg funds were obligated for planning and administrative activities as a whole. In regards to ESG and HOPWA information, 2022, City of St. Louis ESG program plans to allocate funds to the following areas: administration, $113,268, emergency shelter, $875,000, street outreach, $31,141, HMIS, $158,000 for data collection, homeless prevention, $171,000, and rapid rehousing, $161,826. These areas were funded with the same amounts in 2021, and the need has remained. So for ESG formula usage, these are the areas that have been indicated for funding, to be funded. As far as HOPWA is concerned, the City of St. Louis HOPWA program will allocate funds for the following subrecipients in 2022: Doorways, an interfaith nonprofit organization which provides housing and related supportive services to improve the quality of life and health outcomes for people affected by HIV and AIDS. Peter and Paul Community Services, who provides housing and supportive services to those who are homeless, especially those who experience mental illness or live with HIV and AIDS. And these areas funded are consistent with past practice from the Department of Health, and they will continue to be funded in 2022. This concludes the overview of the annual action plan draft. Now for the public hearing. For the sake of the public hearing, if there are any questions or comments, I will take those questions and comments at this time. I would also like to note that today's information, including today's PowerPoint as well as presentation, will be made available on CDA's website following presentation. And as I mentioned earlier in going through some of the slides, all of our information here at CDA will always be made available to the public and will be archived on CDA's website. So if there are no questions or comments, this will conclude our public hearing for the 2022 Annual Action Plan. The Annual Action Plan will be submitted later this month to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The final plan, the final 2022 Annual Action Plan that is submitted, again, will be posted on CDA's website. And that website again is www.stlouis-mo.gov/CDA. Thank you for attending today's public hearing. And that brings us to the conclusion of our presentation today.